Welcome on in here to the Friday edition of First Pitch. It's July 21st. We got a 14-game night slate this evening, so we're excited to be here with you. I'm your host, Dan Alexander, and joining me is the trio. I got Ronald Kabang, Brian Power, and Steve Merrill breaking down the games for you. We also got a gold sheet play coming your way. So, hey, there was a little delay to start here, but we're on the mound. We're ready to go, baby. And we're not blaming anyone as much as Joe Ranieri told me to directly blame Brian Power. So unfortunately, I tried, Brian. But guys, let's get
I
right
appreciate
into
that.
it. and let's let Brian rest a little bit and start off with my man Ronald Kabang, WT.Buzz/RC. And apropos, you want to start with my Philly homer ass and talk with the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Cleveland Guardians. The Phillies making the trip out to Cleveland. I think this is the first time since like 2019 these two teams are going to be facing off. So not much history to draw on here, but how do you see this one shaking out, Ron?
Yeah, your Phillies. They're putting up Ranger Suarez on the mound today. He's put together a pretty respectable performance so far this season. I know he's only 2-4 on the season, 3.84 ERA, but he's shown some decent strikeout ability there. He's also had some. His ground ball rate is pretty decent as well, 51%, which is good for obviously generating double plays, limiting home runs, and things like that. His advanced stats metrics that I look at a lot in my model here, such as his xERA, FIP, xFIP, SIERA, are pretty relatively close to his actual ERA. So that kind of tells me that we're going to probably see a consistent performance here out of Suarez tonight. From the offensive side, Phillies possess a pretty solid offense, well-rounded too. They have a respectable WOBA of 322, WRC plus of 100, indicating sort of like a above average offense production right there. They do a good job of making contact as well. They possess a decent power. They can generate extra base hits. 7th in the league in batting average, 10th in slugging, 10th in stolen bases. So a really well-rounded offense there in Philly. On the opposite side, we have the Guardians. Gavin Williams, 1-2 on the season so far. ERA of 3.94. He does have a great strikeout to walk ratio, but he doesn't have a great strikeout to walk ratio. His BABIP is also particularly low, 247 compared to his other metrics, which kind of tells me that he's been a little bit lucky with some of those batted balls in play. His advanced pitching metrics, xERA, FIP, xFIP, SIERA, all relatively higher than his actual ERA, suggesting might see some negative regression soon. And I think with this Philly offense coming into play here, this might be a game where we do see that. On the offensive side, relatively weaker than the Phillies there. They have a WOBA of 304, have a WRC plus of 92. To me, that's a below average offensive production there from those guys. They don't possess much power at all. They're actually dead last in home runs this season. Batting average is in the middle of the pack, top 10 in the league in steals. But other than that, bottom 10 in most offensive categories. From a trend perspective, some things here on the Philly side, 17-9 as road favorites this season. They're actually won 9 straight as road favorites coming into today's matchup. If Suarez is the starting pitcher in as a road favorite, they're 3-0 straight up and on the run line. In those 3 games, they've won at least 3 they've won by at least 3 runs in each of those. Interesting angle on the Guardian side here, facing a starting left-handed pitcher on the first game of a series, 2-8 straight up, 0-8 on the run line, averaging just 2.3 runs per game in that spot compared to a 5.4 for their opponents. So a lot of things for me leading to taking the Phillies on the money line here.
You don't have to tell me twice, Ronald. Phillies on the money line. I was already ready to bet it before you even gave a great breakdown there. Brian Power also has a big game breakdown. He's taking a look at the Padres and Tigers game. And Brian, don't look now, man, but are the Tigers getting hot? I mean, fresh off winning 3 out of 4 against the Royals. So what do you think? Momentum continues here against the Padres?
Yeah, Dan, they're definitely getting good pitching of late, going back to that combined no-hitter. And, by the way, I would just like to say I was out of rhythm. This is my first time on the show since the All-Star break. But last week, when I knew how to turn the computer on, I was fortunate enough to be co-host of Wager Talk today for a few days. 2 of those with Steve, as a matter of fact. and the Padres. I waited.
I didn't hit anything.
I tell you, I paused.
Dropping
beautifully.
F-bombs.
It's the word, everybody. Anyway, the Padres were a team that came up multiple times on that show last week, including in a discussion of Pythagorean versus actual wins. If you can believe it, Dan, the Padres have the third best run differential in the National League, plus 42. Now, it's a distant third behind the Braves and Dodgers, the East and West leaders. But that run differential gives them a Pythagorean win total of 53. Unfortunately, as we all know, Pythagorean wins will not get you into the playoffs. It's your actual record. In San Diego, despite that third best run differential in the National League, 5 games below 500, 6.5 games off the pace in the wild card hunt. It's the largest negative gap between actual and Pythagorean wins in all of MLB. It's not where you want to be, obviously, but I hate to engage in narratives or hyperbole. But look, Padres 3-4 since the break after the 4-0 loss to the Blue Jays yesterday. So this series, to me, with the Tigers, it's a must sweep for San Diego if they want to get back in playoff contention. I think they can get the series started off on the right foot here on Friday, as the Tigers, despite, as you mentioned, Dan, that great pitching, and it's a 5-2 record since the break, they're still a bottom 5 team in my power ratings. They took 3 of 4, as you mentioned, but Kansas City, come on, they're a bottom 2 team. And take note of this trend. When the Tigers are off a shutout win, they're just 1-6 this season. That includes one of their 2 losses since the break and the game after that combined no-hitter we spoke of. I know Seth Lugo's not great, his record at least for the Padres, but he's got better individual numbers than Olsen, who's going for the Tigers. Detroit is a bottom 5 offense, at least in terms of runs per game at home. Padres, more prolific at the plate on the road. I like San Diego to take tonight's series opener. If it's a little too juicy for you and you want to look at the total, I think the under is worth a look as well. This should be a low-scoring game, but San Diego would be my call for today's big game breakdown.
Looking towards the Padres, indeed. And our friend Joe Ranieri asked me to tell you, Brian, I'm just joking with you. I'm just joking with you. All right, Steve Merrill, bring some decorum.
I'm going to watch the video back and read your lips, Dan.
Earmuffs. Earmuffs. I was watching Old School the other week. Earmuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, bring some decorum back to this show. He's got a 2-for-1 Friday night best bet special up at his page, wt.buzz/SM. And you want to take a look at the Braves and Brewers here tonight. Milwaukee's sitting at a season high, 11 games above 500. What do you think, Steve? Tonight they make it 12 when the Braves come to town?
Well, first of all, this game made my short list because it fits that angle that Ralph Michaels and his son, Jeff's really the one that brought it up. But Jeff, Ralph, myself, we've all talked a lot about it. Teams off extended road trips that come back home as a home dog are not good plays. Best the day off or to sit a day and get back in the routine. That's not the case with Milwaukee. Milwaukee still has been on the game since the All-Star break. They were at Cincinnati, and then they, of course, were playing your Phillies. And I know you think they've gotten hot because they beat the Phillies the last 2 days, 9-3. But this is still an offense that's very challenged. They have had single-digit hits in 7 of their last 8 games. The only other game was a 10-hit game. They barely got there. They've been offensively challenged for several years now, but they do have good pitchers. The last few years they've had Burns, Woodruff, Peralta is going tonight, who's a very underrated third starter the last few seasons for them. And that's why they are only a small dog. But the Atlanta Braves are by far the best team in the National League. Brian Power talked about how the Padres have underachieved based on their run differential. The Brewers, despite those back-to-back wins the last couple nights, despite being 11 games above 500, are still -3 runs on the season. They should theoretically be 3.5 games behind the Cubs, who are the only positive run differential team in this division. So huge class difference here. And the only reason this line is so short is because Soroka's on the mound for Atlanta. He's only made 4 starts this season, and he's had very mediocre numbers overall. His ERA on the year is 5.3. A whip of 5.12 is not good, but it's a little misleading. This is a guy that had not started since August of 2020 until about 2 months ago. He made a start at the end of May and then also made a start early June, and he gave up 12 hits, 9 runs in just over 9 innings in those 2 outings. But since then, the end of June when he came back into the rotation on July 5th, he's only given up 3 runs on 10.5 innings pitched. So I think he's maybe fixed some of the issues. Could be a play-on pitcher. Even if he's just mediocre here, we have the best offense in baseball in the Atlanta Braves against a much weaker Milwaukee team. And once again, Milwaukee returning home off a road trip as a home dog historically is not a good spot. Take a look at the Atlanta Braves, the best team in the National League, maybe the best team in baseball at a pretty short price tonight.
I like it. I like it, Steve. Don't believe the hype. And Ronald, let's swing it back up to you. This is the most popular game on the slate. We got 3 different looks for you here in this game, and it's the Astros and the Oakland Athletics. Yes, the A's. Is it just as simple as, oh, the A's are playing, find a way to fade them? Do the Astros, I guess, in a word, make it 8 straight against the lowly Oakland Athletics tonight? How are you betting?
Yeah, I try not to do that. Just see the A's and fade them specifically, but I have to have some type of stuff to back it up. And I do see a lot here that points towards the Astros to win by margin. I think Valdez actually has faced them twice already this season and won by I think 3 runs or more in each one of those games. But if you look at like through his whole season, I mean he's been more impressive than his record has shown. 7-6 on the season, but his ERA 2.76 there. His strikeout ability is solid. Strikeouts per 9 is 9.89. Also good solid control, right? Low walks per 9 around 2. High ground ball rate 54.6% there. I talked about that in the other matchup where a high ground ball rate kind of looks toward helps with inducing like double plays, limiting home runs and things like that. His advanced pitching stats pretty close to where his ERA is, so we should see a consistent outing here from him as well. And on the offensive side of the ball, Astros well rounded as well. They're in the middle of the pack in most of the offensive categories. WOBA WRC plus of 102, indicating above average offensive production. Team possesses like a pretty good ability to make contact there. They have a lower strikeout rate than most teams. 14th in the league in steals. So like I said, very well rounded offensive team here with the Astros. On the A side, a lot of things just you don't see a lot of positives on the A side here, but more so when you look at Sears, 1-6 record, almost a 4.0 ERA, shows pretty decent control. But one thing that I wanted to point out was his BABIP, which is really low compared to some of his advanced metrics. So that's really telling me that he's been pretty lucky as far as batted balls in play. His advanced stats, metrics, really saying like the EXERA, FIP, XFIP, Sierra, all higher than his actual ERA. That kind of tells me that we might see some more negative regression coming from Sears as well. And I think the Astros have a pretty decent offense to be able to do that today. Offensively, obviously, I think they're dead last in runs per game, ranked bottom 5, 2 dead last in most majority of the offensive categories, except for home runs and steals. A lot of things really just pointing towards the Astros to win by margin. Like I said, even trends. If you look at Valdez, on the road when heavily favored, dating back to last season as a road favorite of 200 or more, minus 200 or more, 4-1 straight up, and on the run line that includes a couple starts earlier in the season. The Astros as road favorites in general, as heavy favorites as road favorites in general, minus 150 or better, starting left-handed pitchers, 3-0 straight up and on the run line this season. In those 3 games, they beat the Pirates 7-0, the A's already 10-1, and the Rockies 4-1. So they're really beating these teams up in that spot. The A's as dogs of plus 190 or more against starting left-handed pitchers, 0-10 straight up, 1-9 on the run line. Also, 7-2-1 to the over, but I like the side more so than the total in that. In those 10 games, they're averaging just 2.5 runs per game, allowing 8.9 runs per game. So just a significant gap between the starting pitchers and the offenses. I like the Astros to win here. Like I said earlier, Valdez has faced this team twice already, and both won by at least 2 runs each. I would say the Astros at minus 140 run line. I think that's pretty solid there.
Laying it there with the Astros, giving you the trends, giving you the spot. And the A's do suck as well. So laying it minus 1.5 with the Athletics. That's what I have to add here. Brian Power, you have the lone best bet that is not taking a look at that game this evening. You're also number 1 in 5% plays currently on a 68% run. So when you're talking, people better listen as long as you log in finally. So it's Mets and Red Sox tonight. I had to get one more shot. Senga is going to be seeing the Red Sox for the first time in his career. So that's one reason why I'm excited for this matchup. But I'm wondering, how do you see it shaking out for the new pitcher?
Well, I hope Mother Nature cooperates here because there's several reasons I like the Red Sox in this game here. series opener with the Mets. For starters, Thursday was an off day for the Red Sox. Well, the Mets were wrapping up a series against the White Sox, and they lost 6-2, did the Mets. Then we have to take home field advantage into account here. There is a sizable discrepancy, Dan, between how many runs the Red Sox score here at Fenway, 5.6 per game, versus on the road, 4.4. There are only two teams in baseball, Texas and Atlanta, that average more runs per game at home than does Boston. And those are Texas and Atlanta, who have the two top offenses in the game. And only Colorado, who always has the largest home versus road split every year, has a larger home versus road split this year than does Boston. So 1.2 more runs per game at home than on the road for the Red Sox. And you mentioned Senga. He's been great at home, 2.50 ERA, 1.11 whip, but on the road, 3.97 ERA, 1.43 whip. So home versus road splits certainly favor the Red Sox tonight. And then looking at the other starter, Cutter Crawford for Boston, he's posted a 2.87 ERA in July. Teams won all three starts. I know some are going to point to some poor numbers at Fenway so far, but I'm looking to mostly back him in the second half. He's striking out almost a batter per inning. Coming out of the All-Star break, 6 shutout innings, a one-hit ball at Wrigley. Boston won that game 11-5. He had 9 strikeouts. In addition to rest and home field and the better offense, Boston also has the bullpen edge here, I think. I just believe, Dan, we're getting the Red Sox at a discounted price here due to the fact they lost back-to-back games out at the aforementioned terrible A's. But they're the better team here. They're still in the wild card race despite being fourth in their own division. And you talk about Pythagorean wins and looking for signs of life. I don't see any reason why we should expect any kind of big second half surge from the Mets. It's not like they have a positive run differential. They're still sitting 6 games below 500. So as long as Mother Nature cooperates for all the reasons I just laid out, Boston is today's best bet. And I know my good buddy Joe Ranieri would agree.
Auto ride with his man, Brian Powers, looking towards the Red Sox in that one. Check him out, wt.buzz/BP. All right, Steve, Astros and Athletics. We got the thoughts on the side from our man, Ronald Kabang, but you want to break down this total, sitting at around 7.5, looking like it's juiced to the under. You can shop around, try and find a little bit better of a price there. But what are you thinking on this one? Under or over that total that we're looking at currently, Steve?
Going to look at a free over-under in that Astros-A's game. It's a late game at 9:40 Eastern tonight on Friday, and I like under 7.5 minus 120. 7's a very key number. Odd numbers are always more likely 7 and 9s because the games can't go ending in a 3-3 tie, for example. It has to get to 7 in extra innings. So 7.5 is a key number. I like the value here with 2 strong starters on the mound in Valdez and Sears. Valdez, one of the best pitchers in baseball for the last couple of seasons. Hard to imagine the worst offense in baseball, Oakland, is going to have any success. In fact, their team total is set at 2.5. So I don't think Oakland's going to have much tonight. The question becomes, will Houston get it done offensively? And I think there's some reasons why they will not. First of all, they looked red hot after the All-Star break against Anaheim, putting up double-digit hits in 3 straight games. They put up, 28 runs in those 3 games. Then they go into the thin air and altitude of Colorado, totals of 12 and 12.5, and they only score 3 and 4 runs with only 8 hits in each game. And then against Oakland yesterday on Thursday, they only have 3 runs on 5 hits. So they're not in good current form. And they're facing a very underrated pitcher in J.P. Sears. Sears' overall numbers this season are very mediocre from an ERA perspective, but it's misleading. He gave up 5 earned runs or more in 5 of his first 7 starts, or 4 runs or more in 5 of his first 7. But since the last 12, he's allowed more than 3 runs only twice in his last 12 starts. First month and a half of the season, his ERA was like 5.5. It's been the low 3 the last couple months since then. On the season, he has a very good whip of 1.01 even after that poor start. So this is the guy that's very underrated, especially because he's pitching for a terrible team. But I think he can definitely shut down Houston tonight as well. So in a battle of these left-handed starters in a late game, take a look at under 7.5 between the A's and Astros. I've got 2 strong best bets tonight, 2 plays that are much stronger on my page right now at WagerTalk.com. It's a 2-for-1 Friday night best bet special from Steve Merrill. Or the best deal, get the next, 11 days remaining in July, 11 days and nights for just $99. You do the math. That's $9 a day. 99 divided by 11. $9 a day for every best bet every day and night for the rest of the month. No promo code needed. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com.
That's Steve Merrill, and we have your Gold Sheet play of the day, and it's a what he said edition. We got the Oakland A's and Houston Astros going under the 7.5 runs for your free play from the Gold Sheet today. And to rehash and bolster a lot of what Steve said there, in the last start against the Astros, Sears just allowed 2 runs on 5 hits in 6 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. And then you look at what else he's done at home, 8 starts at home this season, a total of 8 walks in those games. And then you look at how Oakland matches up against the guy on the mound for the Astros, and that's Valdez. Their current roster batting 185 and 61 plate appearances against Valdez. And one other thing is both of these bullpens should be in pretty good shape after last night's starters went deep into the game. All of that backing up Steve's look towards the Houston Astros and Oakland A's under the 7.5 runs here for the goldsheet.com. For more info like that, head on over to goldsheet.com or check them out on wagertalk.com. That's going to do it for us here on another week of First Pitch coming to a close. Big thanks to the guys you see right there, Ronald Kabang, Brian Power, and Steve Merrill, getting you ready to go for this evening's action. And guess what? You don't have to go anywhere. If you want more actionable info on the MLB slate tonight, just check out Wager Talk today, only here on Wager Talk TV.